Making the decision to have a child, it's momentous. It is to decide forever to have your heart go walking around outside your body.
There are many ways to measure success, not the least of which is the way your child describes you when talking to a friend.
While we try to teach our children all about life, our children teach us what life is all about.
Keep me away from the wisdom that does not cry, the philosophy that does not laugh, and the greatness that does not bow before children.
Raising a child can be one of the richest, deepest experiences imaginable. It's an intellectual, emotional, and spiritual journey that just can't be duplicated in any other way. Being a parent, or even just being around children and involved in their lives, can be one of the most rewarding things about life. If you're a parent, you probably know how much pure joy, happiness, and laughter children can bring. On the other hand, parenting has been called one of the most difficult jobs in the world. Raising children sometimes involves really tough situations and painful circumstances. Divorce happens. Custody battles happen. You may have a child with special needs or health problems. You might be at the end of your rope simply trying to do your best and hang on while raising a teenager. There are very few activities that you can engage in that are even remotely as demanding as raising a child. The next stop on our lifebook journey is parenting. It's a crazy, complicated, wonderful category, but it's important, really important. As a matter of fact, parenting is so important that the entire human race depends on at least some of us doing it well. Being a parent is an awesome responsibility. The life of another human being is in your hands. When the process begins, they're totally dependent on you. I mean, infants can't walk, they can't talk, they can't even hold their heads up. If you left them alone for 48 hours, they wouldn't survive. As they grow, they look to you for everything important: their food, their clothing, their shelter. And as they develop into individuals, they look to you for values, for morals, for a sense of life. They look to you for specific advice, and they model you. As a parent, you're under a microscope. Your level of health and fitness is what health and fitness means to them. They look at your marriage as an example of what marriage means. Your career is what it means to have a job. Everything you say, everything you do, everything you are is what human being means to them. You're the role model, whether you're conscious of that or not. So what's being a good parent all about? What does it entail? What are your beliefs in this fascinating and important category of life? Fundamentally, Missy and I believe that our job as parents is to raise independent, healthy, happy, courageous children. That's our mission as parents. And we believe doing that entails three things. In order to raise kids like that, we've got to first set a good example. Second, we've got to create a safe, sane, loving environment in which they can flourish. And third, we've got to teach them what they need to know to navigate through life. Now let's take a closer look at each of these three beliefs. First of all, we believe that it's up to us to set a good example. Now, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that we need to set a good example. We've heard that over and over, and we've kind of become numb to the phrase. Please try to understand this. As a parent, you are your child's world. You're the provider, you're the caregiver, you're the example of how decisions are made. You are everything. You are literally the example of what being a human being is all about to them. They want to be you. If you smoke, you're giving them permission to smoke, no matter what you say. If you're overweight, doesn't matter what you say about junk food or sugar being unhealthy, you're giving them permission to be unhealthy every day. If you're a courageous person who really steps up into life, someone who's not afraid to set goals and then go after them, you're giving your child permission to be courageous. If you have a fantastic relationship with your spouse, you're showing them every day what a loving relationship looks like. The most important responsibility we have as parents by far is to be great people and live great lives. The best education a kid could ever have is to see their parents being happy and successful and having a stable, fulfilling life. What we tell them to do and what we actually do ourselves needs to be in total alignment. There's a true story from India about a woman who came to see Gandhi to help with a parenting problem. She was upset that her son was eating so much sugar, and no matter how much she nagged him, he just wouldn't stop, and it was getting out of control. She was totally frustrated with the situation, and she decided to take her son to see his great hero to see if Gandhi could get the kid to stop. She approached the great teacher with her son, and she said respectfully, "Sir, my son eats too much sugar, and it's not good for his health. Would you please advise him to stop?" Well, Gandhi listened to the woman carefully, and he thought for a moment, and then he said, "I understand. Go back home and come back in 2 weeks." The woman looked a little confused, but she agreed, and she took the boy by the hand, and she went home. 2 weeks later, she returned with the boy in hand. Gandhi motioned for them to come forward. He looked right at the boy, and he said, "Boy, you should stop eating so much sugar. It's not good for your health. Do you understand?" The boy nodded, and he promised, "From this day forth, I will no longer eat sugar." Gandhi smiled, and the boy left the room. And the mother turned to Gandhi, and she said, "Thank you, sir. But may I ask you a question? Why didn't you tell him that 2 weeks ago when I first brought him to see you?" Gandhi smiled, and he said, "Mother, 2 weeks ago, I was still eating sugar myself." Gandhi lived in such integrity that he wouldn't allow himself to give advice unless he was living it himself, and that wasn't even his kid. I mean, how much more should we be in integrity with our own children in what we think, what we say, and what we do? It's not what we say, but who we are as people that will have a profound impact on our kids' lives. So all the lifebook categories are in play here. They're all important. We want to set a good example in every area of life. Missy and I believe that the most important thing that we can do to be great parents is to live 12 categories smart. Here's our second belief. It's up to us to create a sane, safe, loving environment in which our kids can thrive. Modern psychology tells us that the most important factor in a child's development is safety. Physical, psychological, emotional, intellectual safety. Their physical safety comes first and foremost, making sure they've got proper food, proper shelter, proper clothing, keeping them from getting hurt, keeping them out of danger. Then comes their psychological safety. Children need the experience of living in a rational universe, a world in which facts are treated as facts. Truth is respected. Question asking is valued as opposed to punished. An environment in which a child's desire to understand is honored and nurtured. And I'll tell you, that's a world that too many parents fail to provide. The danger to a child confronted with adult irrationality is that they'll surrender the will to understand, the will to make sense out of their experience. The child may give up on the belief that thinking is worthwhile, and if they do that, it's game over. They're not going to turn into healthy, happy, independent people. We protect our children psychologically by behaving rationally. Now that's a big responsibility. It takes consciousness and it takes vigilance, but we owe it to them. Our third belief is this: it's up to us to teach our children what they need to know to navigate through life. If you have parenting values that even remotely resemble ours, you know that the government cannot teach our kids what they need to be successful human beings. It's up to us as parents to define what they need to know and then to teach it to them, because it ain't going to happen in school. School does a really good job teaching certain things, especially the basics, like reading, writing, and math. But school doesn't even come close to teaching the most important things in life, like how to find your purpose, how to set and achieve worthy goals in your life, how to be physically healthy, how to make money, how to develop your character, how to cultivate quality relationships in your life. And there's at least one important aspect of school that is actually anti-success. Too often, school teaches kids how to follow the rules without questioning and go along with the group. Our society in general, and school in particular, tends to squash inner-directed kids immediately at the very first sign of independence. They learn at a very early age not to challenge the teacher or the status quo or to suggest unusual ideas. Well, this is pretty much a recipe for failure in just about every area of life, and pretty much everyone knows it. The leaders in just about every field of society are the self-directed people who follow their own inner voice, not the people who play it safe and follow the rules and play the game correctly and do what they're told to do. And never has this been more true than it is now in the 21st century, because there is a shrinking market for blind obedience in today's world. I mean, we've got robots for that now. We need people who can actually think for themselves. So if independent thinking is so incredibly important to being successful, why don't they teach it and nurture it in schools? Because they can't. Our schools have to process millions of kids, and they do the best they can given the circumstances. They can't be attending to each kid's special needs and talents. It's impossible. The system simply can't do it. The government can't give your kid a proper education. That's a parent's job. It's always been a parent's job, and it always will be. Here are some important things that Missy and I want to deeply instill in our children that school doesn't address. We want to teach our kids how to think, not what to think. Kids are often taught the lowest level of thinking in school, how to regurgitate information. They're seldom taught the basic principles of logic. They're not trained to recognize logical fallacies. They're taught next to nothing about reason, rationality, and the importance of critical thinking. I mean, can you imagine school teaching kids to question everything? It wouldn't work. It'd be chaos. And yet, the quality of their lives depends to a huge extent on their ability to think and reason in a high-quality way. And this is just simply not overtly taught in most schools. If they ever learn it, they kind of have to pick it up along the way. Well, we want to teach our kids how to think, how to solve problems, how to think creatively and logically, and figure things out on their own. We want to teach our kids to set their own goals and to create plans to achieve those goals. It's one of the most important skills they could ever develop. It's the master skill of success. As a child, did you ever have a grown-up come up to you and ask you, what is it that you really want out of life? What are the most important things to you? What are you fascinated by? What skills do you need to develop? What do you need to learn? What do you need to do in order to have the things that you really want in your life? I'd venture a guess that most of us never got that experience from any adults, and certainly not our teachers, because guess what? It's not a teacher's job to do that. Their job is to make sure you can find Argentina on a map, and that you can add 4-digit numbers and recite the first 3 lines of the Declaration of Independence. It's not their job to discover what you really want out of life and to help you figure out how to get it. That's a parent's job. Missy and I want to teach our kids to never stop thinking about what they want out of life and why they want it and what they need to do and who they need to become to get it. Another thing that we want to teach our children is how to be physically healthy. We believe that teaching our children about health and nutrition and exercise is one of the primary responsibilities of a good parent. And this is an area where parents are failing more and more. I mean, you see overweight kids all over the place these days. And I'm not talking about chubby like when I was a kid. I'm talking about obese. This may sound a little hardcore, but we think that's the parents' fault. I mean, there's no excuse. Stop feeding them bad food and stop feeding them too much of it. I mean, some parents act like they got no control over what their kids eat. It's just like, he doesn't like vegetables. He just doesn't like them. I mean, I try to be healthy. I try to feed him a healthy breakfast, but he wants Captain Crunch. And I'm thinking to myself, so what? The kid doesn't have any money. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a car. Can't go out and buy what he wants. He's got to eat whatever you give him. If you put healthy food in front of him and it gets hungry enough, he's surely going to eat it. In our minds, the most important thing we want to teach our kids about food is that it's not primarily about taste. The primary purpose of food is not to give you some sort of euphoric, explosive, sensual experience. I mean, taste is a bonus, but it's not the point. The purpose of food is to fuel your body. It's to give your body the proper balance of nutritional components that it needs to function at an optimal level. If you can get that connection in a kid's head early on, you're going to put them on the path to health for the rest of their life. Now, that doesn't mean that the experience of eating shouldn't be pleasurable. I think it should be for sure. But the primary purpose of eating and drinking is to properly fuel your body. When you see people out there who are in good physical shape, they're doing a pretty good job with it. People who struggle simply haven't made that connection powerfully enough in their lives yet. Here's another very important subject to Missy and me. We want to teach our kids about money, what it is, where it comes from, how wealth is created, and what it can do for you and the people around you. And school doesn't even try to address this issue. I mean, we go to school for at least 15 years or more, and we learn about geometry, algebra, biology, chemistry, history, sociology, music, computers, phys ed, health, government, and then we graduate and we spend the majority of our waking hours just about every day for the rest of our lives trying to make money, a subject we've learned absolutely nothing about in school. Now I'm going to say that again because it's almost unbelievable. We go to school for almost 2 decades and we learn about everything but money, and then we graduate and spend the rest of our lives trying to make money. We're going to look at this craziness when we dig into the career and financial categories. The basic path to financial abundance is discovering and nurturing your talents, and then figuring out how to use those talents to serve others in the best way possible. And if we don't teach that to our children, who's going to do it? Missy and I want to implant the fundamentals of wealth creation firmly in their brains so they'll have the opportunity to be financially successful if they choose. And they'll have material abundance and a higher level of freedom in their lives as a result. Missy and I also want to teach our kids about the world through travel. It's one of the most important ways we educate our kids. We believe that traveling is one of the best experiences a kid could have because it just yanks them out of their little world, gets them off the video games, gets them off of their screens, puts them in a different culture, and completely expands their concept of life on earth. St. Thomas Aquinas said, "The whole world is a book, and those who don't travel read only one page." The world we live in is a very, very big place, and there are a lot of places that are very different than where you live. If you want to get really thankful for what you have, spend a little bit of time in a few third world countries. We want our kids to see that, and we want our kids to know that. Our children have experienced the jungles of Laos on the Mekong River in an old long-tail boat. They've lived in the shadows of the Great Pyramids. They've taken a bath in a bucket in a remote corner of Thailand, fallen asleep to the twinkling lights of the Eiffel Tower, wandered around the ancient ruins of Rome. They've deeply experienced Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, and Muslim cultures, and that's had an immense effect on them as people. It's made them smarter, stronger, more tolerant, and more compassionate. And it's been an amazing and very unique education. Our kids know things most kids don't. They can tell you the name of the royal family of Thailand. They can tell you the symbol of Upper and Lower Egypt. They know how to haggle at night markets. They know currency exchange. They know how to count to 100 in Indonesian. And they can tell you where Sri Lanka is on a map because we lived there. Now, we know that living this way isn't for everyone, but it's the life that we've chosen to live, and we absolutely love it. Travel is one of the most exciting and enjoyable ways that we educate our children. Finally, and maybe most importantly, we want to teach our kids how to be 12 categories smart and live a great life. What does a good marriage look like? What is physical health all about? How do you find a career that's right for you? How do you create financial abundance in your life? What's required for your spiritual, emotional, and intellectual fulfillment? We want to educate them in every lifebook category. And again, it's the example we set that they're going to learn from more than anything that we say. They look to us as the model of what's proper to a man and woman. So those are our three fundamental beliefs. As parents, we got to set a good example for our kids. We got to create a safe, sane, loving environment for our children. And we have to teach them what they need to know to have great lives. And Missy and I have defined what that means to us. Now look, there are as many parenting styles out there as there are parents. You know, it's kind of a cliche. You raise your kid the way you want. Don't tell me how to raise mine. And of course, we'd never do that. We don't believe in it. Missy and I have defined deeply what being a great parent means to us. If you're interested in living the Lifebook lifestyle, you've got to do the same thing. It's an amazing, challenging, but very exciting process. Let's turn now to the wisdom of the Lifebook community. Here are some parenting premise statements from Lifebook members all over the world. As a parent, I am here to give my children roots and wings. Our role as parents is to love, teach, guide, and prepare our children for the road ahead. Through raising children, we become better people ourselves, and that's priceless. Being a parent is the fundamental purpose given to me by the universe. My wife and I take this task very seriously. We have an obligation to Mother Nature and to the future of humanity to be the best parents we can be. Teaching our children critical thinking, compassion, and contribution is mandatory. The experience of fatherhood is a sacred and special gift that I will not waste nor take for granted. I am blessed beyond measure to be called Dad. Being an awesome auntie and godmother is a very important role. I will be supportive whenever needed. I always want to be available for my children, no matter what, while encouraging independence. Although I don't have children of my own, I have a deep appreciation for their innocence, energy, joy, and uninhibited, unspoiled view of the world. I am a healthy role model for my children, and my children are my best teachers. So what do you believe being a great parent is about? What does it entail? Take a few minutes now and write down some thoughts on your foundational beliefs, your premise for the parenting category. How good a job did your parents do? Did they raise you perfectly? What would you have changed? Have you ever thought to yourself, I'm not going to raise my kids the way I was raised? Well, look, it's a cliche to blame our parents for everything we don't like in our lives. But often, if we take an honest look back at how they raised us, we might realize that they were just doing the best they could with what they had. Now look, I'm not saying that there's no right or wrong way to parent. There are some bad parents out there. But the truth is that your parents raised you based on who they were in all 12 categories of their life. And they probably did it somewhat unconsciously. It's not very likely that they ever sat down and created a vision for their relationship with you. Probably never defined their parenting strategy clearly. They probably didn't give a whole lot of thought to what they'd need to do to become better parents. I mean, most parents out there just don't bring a whole lot of consciousness to this process. But it's different for us because we have a tool that wasn't available to them, and it's called Lifebook. This tool is going to help you gain clarity on the vision for yourself as a parent and your relationship with your children. And that's just a huge advantage in this area of life. How do you want to conduct yourself as a parent, as a role model? What kind of a relationship do you want to have with your children? How do you see their lives unfolding over the coming years while they're in your care? What kind of a family do you want to raise? These are the questions that you're going to want to take a look at as you create your vision for this category. Missy and I have defined 4 key character traits that really sum up our focus for our parenting vision. Our vision is to raise independent, healthy, happy, courageous kids. It's as simple as that. But it's also easier said than done. So what does that look like in action? Let's take a closer look at those 4 character traits. First of all, we want to raise independent children. Now that attribute is first for a reason. It's our single most important parenting value. In our minds, our primary job as parents is to make sure that our kids can get along without us. We got to get them to the point where they can function properly in our absence, and the sooner the better. Now, this can be emotionally hard to face because we don't want to let go. No parent does. We worry. It's difficult. But our primary job as parents is to make sure that our kids possess the competence to cope with the challenges of life when we're not around. So what's required to do that? How do you raise independent kids? Well, to us, the single most important concept that they can understand is this. You are the author of your life. You have the freedom in life to make your own choices and to make your own decisions. And the life you're going to get is going to be a result of those decisions. We try to allow our kids the freedom to choose whenever possible, while still guiding them along their life path. If they're struggling with a problem, we really try not to ride into the rescue, because solving problems is how we learn and grow. So we don't want to steal their struggles, because those struggles are valuable. We try to communicate, we're here for you, but we believe in your ability to cope with this. Now there's a balance here. We want them to be free to experiment with the laws of cause and effect, but at the same time we have to set appropriate boundaries, because it's a kid's job to push the boundaries so they can see where they are in life. They got to figure out what's appropriate. If you don't set clear boundaries, they don't have anything to push up against, and they're going to end up feeling overwhelmed and bewildered and miserable. We've seen dozens and dozens of examples of this. Parents who don't know how to set proper boundaries, and their kids are running amok, ruining the whole household, completely miserable. So we set very clear boundaries. Our parenting style is to give our kids the freedom to choose whenever possible, but when they cross the line, when they make bad choices, they've got to take full responsibility for their choices. You do not assign blame or responsibility to anyone else for the choices you make or for the actions you take. You make a bad decision, you take responsibility for it. Don't get upset with me if you get grounded because you broke the window. I didn't break that window. How's it working out for you to be grounded, breaking the window, when all your friends are going to a movie? Are you enjoying that? That's the kind of cause and effect we try to teach our kids. We want to get them to start behaving correctly, not for us, but for themselves. We want them to associate appropriate behavior with a good life, because there is a direct correlation. We want them to understand that their own choices and their own actions are what is going to determine their success or their failure in life, and that is what independence is all about to Missy and me. Secondly, we want to raise healthy kids. Healthy physically, psychologically, and spiritually. We look at all the lifebook categories here. We want our children to deeply understand that they get one body to go through life with. That's it. It's got to last a lifetime, so take care of it. Keep it physically healthy. We want them to understand that their mind is their greatest asset to make it through life, and that no virtue is higher or more practical than the appropriate exercise of mind. So keep your brain and keep your mind healthy and functioning properly. We want them to know that their feelings are important. So pay attention to your feelings and seek to understand them. They've got to know what a healthy relationship looks like. We want them to be happy and healthy in all aspects of life. And again, the most important thing we can do is to set a good example in all those areas, which we try our best to do every day. Third, we want to raise happy kids. We want to surround them with plenty of love. There's lots of kissing and hugging in our house, lots of praise when they succeed, and lots of encouragement when they don't. There's lots of wrestling, lots of physical contact, lots of saying I love you. We just want to surround them with as much love and positivity as we possibly can. There is just so much pressure on kids in today's culture. Yes, we want our kids to do well by conventional standards, but guess what? You're only a kid once, and we really want them to be happy and enjoy the experience. Whether our children learn to read at 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, in our minds will be pretty much irrelevant to their success in life. However, we believe that if you push them too hard, you can take the joy away from being a kid, and that is a problem. We don't want them to get the sense that life is some sort of a race, that it's some sort of a stressful competition. Pushing your kids too hard can absolutely backfire and become a real negative. Their happiness is just so important to us. We want to surround them with love and let them have fun and let them be kids. Lastly, we want to raise courageous children, and that's unusual in today's culture. Kids know today that the world is a very, very dangerous place because we've taught that to them. Lots of kids are just freaked out and fearful because lots of parents are freaked out and fearful. What happened to the world anyway? When I was a kid, we didn't wear helmets when we rode our bikes. We never wore seat belts. My parents used to throw the 6 of us in the back seat and tear out of the driveway. Nothing was childproof. Medicine bottles, doors, cabinets, stairs, nothing. There was no such thing as bottled or filtered water back then. We drank out of the sink or the garden hose. We ate all kinds of deadly poison, tuna from a can, Twinkies, Kool-Aid, real butter, but we didn't get fat because we actually played outside every day. We fell out of trees, we got cut, we broke our bones, we got some teeth knocked out, and no one sued anyone for any of that stuff. We didn't have cell phones. Our parents couldn't reach us when we were gone. We came home when it got dark, and we were just fine. Look, keeping your kids safe is a good thing, definitely. Being cautious is important. Seat belts and helmets are good. We want our kids to be safe. But Miss and I think there's a real difference between teaching our kids how to be safe and teaching them to be afraid. Fear is one of the most lucrative products that the media sells. We hear and see every grisly detail of every tragedy, every accident, every crime that happens anywhere on the news. Movie after movie graphically illustrates the most awful violence imaginable. Video games have kids killing and being killed for hours and hours a day, especially boys. Even music has turned violent, and it didn't used to be that way. And over time, these powerful messages seep in and they generalize in our experience, and we start to view the world as a very, very dangerous place, and then we put that on our kids, sometimes at an obscenely young age. But the irony of it all is this: we live in one of the safest times and one of the safest places in all of human history. We're literally surrounded by prosperity and opportunity that are unprecedented. We've completely eradicated most of the real threats that humans have had to deal with before, like constant war and famine and pestilence. True, there are still dangers out there, but the world's substantially more dangerous if you're afraid of it. If your predominant emotion is fear, you're going to see danger everywhere, and then you're more likely to experience it in your life. Well, we want to give our kids the gift of not seeing the world that way, not being afraid of everything, not being freaked out and timid and second-guessing everything in their life. We want them to be strong and powerful and confident. We want them to feel like the whole world is their domain, like they belong here, like they were born to control the affairs of their lives. Just think about the advantage that a kid would have if they came at the world with appropriate self-esteem and confidence and courage. So Missy and I want to raise courageous children. We think that that's going to help them get through life a whole lot better. Now I'll say it again, there are as many parenting styles out there as there are parents. That's our style. We want to raise independent, healthy, happy, courageous kids. We believe in freedom, we believe in self-responsibility, we don't have many rules, but we mean the ones we have, and everyone knows what they are. We give our kids a ton of rope, but we come down hard on them when they cross the line. Now, when it comes to raising your children, you may have a completely different vision than that. We've identified the values that are most important to us, but there's a whole lot of other amazing values that you could focus on. What about compassion? Do you want your kids to be kind and loving? Do you want to instill in your kids a sense of contribution, a duty, a responsibility to make the world a better place? What about spiritual or religious values? Are those important to you? Let's turn now to the wisdom of the Lifebook community. here are some beautiful parenting vision statements from Lifebook members worldwide. Our children understand that their life belongs to them totally and completely, not us. They cherish their freedom and understand the self-responsibility that goes along with it. They do what is right for themselves, not for our sake. Our children feel deeply loved because we give them lots and lots of physical affection. Hugs, kisses, cuddles, saying I love you, and telling them why. They know we're always there for them. I will take my children on adventures for learning and exploring to become the most well-rounded, independent people they can be. My children live in truth. They are open, centered, and receptive, whole and complete. I will always be an example of integrity in what I say and do, in order to foster trust and to give my children an opportunity to live in integrity with me. I want my family to be courageous and to follow their dreams. I want us to respect and honor each other. I want us to communicate freely with each other in security and love. We want a lifetime relationship with our children. I see us exploring the world and doing extraordinary things for as long as we're together. I will better support my granddaughter in ways I wish I'd been willing to do with my own kids. My dream is to help my kids' dreams come true. So what is your vision for this category of your life book? What are the values that you want to instill in your children? How do you want to see them develop as human beings? How do you see their lives unfolding? You want to define these things as deeply as possible in the coming weeks and months, but for now, just take a few notes on your vision for the parenting category. Missy and I have been parents for a long time, and we've created a lifetime of unforgettable memories with our children. There's just so much fun in being a parent, so much laughter, and so much love. So many deep and beautiful feelings on a daily basis that you just can't get any other way. It's truly one of the richest, most rewarding experiences in life. So that's obviously a big part of my purpose for getting this category right. Another big why for Missy and me is our desire to make this world a better place. We view parenting as an opportunity to raise little humans that are part of the solution instead of the problem. Little people that are going to grow up to be big, self-responsible people and change things, fix things, and leave the world a better place than when they found it. If we instill the proper values and the right virtues into our children, they're going to carry on our legacy. They're going to spread the best that's inside of them, which means the best that was inside of us, and keep it going after we're gone. But most importantly, we want to raise awesome kids that'll grow up to have great lives because we love them, and we want the absolute best for them. We want them to do great things, we want them to be great people, and we want them to have rewarding, fulfilling, happy lives. We want them to really flourish. From a cosmic perspective, that's pretty much the reason we're here, to pass on what we know to the very best of our ability to the next generation and to sail them off like a little ship on the sea. What a privilege to be able to do that, right? Let's turn now to the wisdom of the lifebook community. Here are some beautiful purpose statements in the parenting category from lifebook members worldwide. My child is my greatest legacy. My purpose is to have fun with my kids, gently influence them in positive ways, and help them grow into the fantastic human beings that they're becoming. I can make the world a better place by raising physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy, fulfilled children. My purpose for being a great parent is to pass on my wisdom and my experience to prepare our kids for their own journey. My highest purpose is to love them unconditionally. Our children are the future of this planet. As they achieve their own life purpose, they will shape and forge a new path for humanity. My purpose is to enjoy and have fun being a parent, raising our children, to expand our sharing capacity in this life, this adventure. A parent's job is to raise their children better than they were raised themselves, and that's what we intend to do. I want to live an extraordinary life with my children, have fun, laugh, learn, and experience all the joys of life together. My purpose is to make the world we live in a better place, to help humanity along, to bring little humans into this existence so that one day they will carry on our and their own goodwill and make life better for all. So what are some of the most important reasons you can think of for raising great kids? I mean, look, this has got to be one of the hardest jobs on the planet. Why do you do what you do? Why is it worth it? What are the reasons that you're absolutely committed to being the best possible parent you can be? Take a few minutes now and clarify your purpose for the parenting category. Our vision for the parenting category is to raise independent, healthy, happy, courageous kids. And the strategy that we've created to achieve that is values-based. Missy and I realized a long time ago that goals and tactics and strategies are going to come and go in this category. They're going to change as fast as your kids change, which is super fast. I mean, every kid is totally unique. They all have different sets of strengths and needs. And frankly, they just change and grow so fast that it's hard to keep up with them. I mean, it's like they're completely different people every 6 months. This category is definitely a moving target. So early on, we defined 3 simple parenting principles that would guide our parenting strategy. It's kind of like the framework we use, and all of our strategies and tactics fit inside of it. And when we moved into our dream house, we literally set those principles for our parenting strategy in stone. Our home is surrounded by a beautiful Japanese garden, which contains hundreds of tons of granite boulders. The biggest stone in our estate is a 9-ton granite boulder at the entrance to our front gate, and our Japanese garden designer, Hoichi Kurisu, put it there. It's always amazing to see Hoichi set stones like this. I mean, just imagine this short Japanese guy handling a 22,000-pound rock by hand, dangling from a 75-foot-tall crane, making sure that it fits perfectly into place exactly where he wants it. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Once Hoichi set that stone, we had a Japanese calligrapher write the characters for the 3 core values of our home with a calligrapher's brush on a scroll. And then we literally sandblasted those 3 characters into that 9-ton stone that guards the entrance to our house. The 3 values of our home, which are the foundation of our parenting strategy, literally written in stone at our front gate, are freedom, self-responsibility, and love. Let's take a look at each of these profound values, one at a time. Freedom is the operating principle of our home and the core value that guides our parenting strategy. So what does freedom mean in the context of parenting? Here's what it means to us. Kids, we do not own you. You own yourself. You're in control of yourself, not us. You have the freedom in life to make your own choices and your own decisions. You are free to experiment and learn the laws of logic and the laws of cause and effect. You're in charge of your life. You're in control of your existence. And our job as parents is to protect you and to nurture you for now, to give you guidance, to give you advice, to help you discover and cultivate your interests and your talents, to give you a good example of what we believe is proper to a man and a woman in this world. But guess what, kids? This is all temporary. Someday, and trust me, it's going to come sooner than you think, you're going to need to go out there into the world and forge your own way. I mean, we're always going to be there to help you and to assist you and to guide you and hopefully to inspire you. But make no mistake about it, your life is yours. You own it. You're in the driver's seat. You are the primary creative force, the responsible party, the decision maker at the center of your own existence. So we try to give our kids as much freedom as they can possibly handle. We let them make their own mistakes. We let them have their own successes. We let them figure out what works and what doesn't work in their life. I mean, we spend a lot of time guiding them and giving them the best advice we can, but we let them choose themselves whenever possible. Now, with freedom comes self-responsibility, which is the second pillar of our parenting strategy. And here's what that means to us. Kids, you're free to choose. You're free to act the way you see fit. But you've got to take full responsibility for your choices and for your actions. You do not assign blame or responsibility to anyone else for the choices you make or for the actions you take. If you break the rules and get grounded, you have chosen that. It's your choices that got you there, so take responsibility for it. And when you do that, you'll discover one of the most important things that a person could ever learn, and here's what it is. You are powerful. You can change things about yourself and your world simply by changing your behavior, by changing the way you think, by changing the way you act, by changing the decisions you make, and you're going to get different results. You have the power to create any kind of a life that you want for yourself, simply by taking full responsibility for yourself. Now, this strategy has a number of very, very interesting effects, one of which is our kids are very seldom angry at us when they get punished for doing something wrong, because they know the rules and they know the consequences, and they know if they break the rules, they've got to be willing to live with the consequences. For example, one morning, Missy and I woke up to a note from our then 17-year-old daughter, Jessie, next to an empty bottle of red wine. In the note, she told us that she took the bottle of wine from the wine cellar because she cooked a romantic dinner for her boyfriend. She knew it was against the rules, and she knew she was going to get grounded, and she said she was willing to accept that. She said she hoped we weren't too disappointed, and if it's any consolation, she had a really great night. Well, I gotta tell you, we weren't too thrilled that she'd snuck the wine, but at that moment we felt like pretty good parents, because Jessie had made a thoughtful, conscious decision that had consequences attached, and she took full responsibility for her actions. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve with our parenting strategy. The third value of our home is love, which might seem a little predictable, but it's actually a Japanese word that has a very distinct meaning. It could also be translated as respect and affection, or reverence and love. The closest English translation is probably mutual love and respect. When you're exercising your freedom to choose and taking responsibility for your choices, always remember to be kind, courteous, and respectful of the rights of others. Our home is a place of warmth, harmony, positive energy, and love, and we want to keep it that way. I mean, freedom doesn't mean that you get to run rampant and push your way to the front of the line and be loud and obnoxious and act like a little monster. You can play your music as loud as you want, as long as you don't bother other people with it. The words you use and the tone of your voice are your decision. Just make sure you're appropriate and don't disrespect other people. You're free to operate any way you choose, so long as you don't violate the rights of the people around you. Under our roof, you're going to conduct yourself with courtesy, kindness, and respect. Ann Landers said, "It's not what we do for our children, but what we've taught them to do for themselves that makes them successful human beings." And the values we want to teach our kids, the sense of life we want to deeply imprint into their powerful little brains, can be summed up like this: you are the author of your own life, and your life is important. You're the one that's in the driver's seat, nobody else, including your mother and me. You are in control of how your own life unfolds, no one else. And the way that you exercise that freedom is through your daily choices and actions. Your choices and actions are going to determine your destiny, so take responsibility for yourself. Become the best decision maker you can possibly be, not for us, but for you, so that your life will unfold the way you want it to unfold. Believe in yourself, like we believe in you. Trust yourself. Learn to rely on your own intelligence as your primary judge of truth. Be your own person and create your own life your own way. And we're going to be there to support you as much as we possibly can. And always remember along the way to show love and respect the rights of the people around you. Because just like you, they're unique and they're beautiful, and they have the right to live their lives the way they see fit. So honor and respect and celebrate that. So those are the very simple tenets of our home: freedom, self-responsibility, and love. But they're profound values that have served our family very, very well over the years. So when you're creating the strategy for your parenting, you might want to identify some guiding principles so that you can remain consistent over the years as your kids grow and change, and as your goals and tactics and parenting strategy evolves. Now that is a very principles-based approach to parenting strategy, and that's our style. But you can get much, much more specific if you want to, thinking deeply about each child, who they are, what they need, and what you can do to help them along their life path more effectively. Missy and I have done this before, and it's really, really great. So if you want to do a deep dive on each child, here's how to do it. First, write a brief description of who this child is. What's their personality like? What makes them so special? What do you love about them? Where are they in their life right now? Are they blossoming? Are they struggling? What do they need right now? Write a vivid description of who they are and where they are in their life. Second, what is your relationship with them like at the moment? Where are you now as a parent, and where would you like to be? Are you too tight right now? Do you need to loosen up and give them a little more freedom than what you've been giving them? Or are you too loose? Do you need to define their boundaries a little more clearly? What do you need to do to take your relationship with them to the next level? How can you really help them? What are your specific goals for each of your children? What do you need to do to really help them blossom? Getting in touch with each child at this level can be a totally eye-opening, life-transforming experience. It's just a heartwarming, wonderful thing to do. Let's turn to the wisdom of the Lifebook community now. Here are some great parenting strategies from Lifebook members all over the world. I will spend more one-on-one time with each of the kids in their world. Ask about their interests and really get into their experience, and listen, listen, listen. I will keep in touch regularly with nieces and nephews and expect nothing in return. My number one strategy, to hug and kiss my kids a lot. I will work out my own childhood traumas rather than project them on my children. Now that my daughters are adults, my resources are the conversations, the shared memories, the good and bad times shared together, and the love I have for them. I will listen to my children. They were recently in heaven. I will travel with the family, learning and exploring, and show our love through the 5 love languages. I will seek to understand what they need and want for their lives to flourish and have a successful life experience. I will give them opportunities at home to fail greatly and courageously. So what parenting strategies will you choose? What are the most effective things that you can do to make your parenting vision a reality? Take a few minutes now and outline your strategy for this hugely important chapter of your life book.
time a new baby is born, there is a possibility of reprieve. Each child is a new being, a potential prophet, a new spiritual prince, a new spark of light precipitated into the outer darkness.
You've brought more consciousness to your parenting in the last hour than most people will do in an entire lifetime. You've blocked in your premise, your vision, your purpose, and your strategy for one of the most important areas of your life. Now, here's what that means. From this point forward, everything's going to go exactly according to plan. Your kids are going to start behaving like little angels. They'll probably serve you breakfast in bed every day. They'll keep their rooms spotless. They'll do the dishes without being asked. Your home will become a paradise on earth, and all of your parenting problems are going to evaporate. That's not likely to happen. No matter how amazing your vision is, one thing you can be absolutely sure of is that things won't go according to plan. Our oldest son, Jordan, accidentally burned down half our backyard. Now, we didn't plan for that. Arson was not on our agenda. Every 2-year-old boy in America thinks his name is No, and ours were no exception. Sometimes I go into my teenager's room and I look around and I say, "What are you, a raccoon?" And as a parent, you find yourself saying things that you never thought you'd say, like, "Do you think that painting your brother green before school was a good idea?" You never know what these crazy little people are going to do next. But one thing we can be sure of is that we're going to have challenges no matter how well we plan. But how much better will it be if you think through what you're trying to accomplish, even if you can't plan for every little detail? I mean, we all get knocked off track sometimes, but if we have a clear roadmap for what we're trying to accomplish, we can get back on track a heck of a lot more easily. If we have a clear, well-developed vision for our children and for ourselves as parents, and a solid strategy based on clearly defined values, it just makes it a lot more easy to stay consistent in what we say and what we do as parents. The key is staying flexible while staying consistent. You want to bring a lot of creativity to this category because you're going to need it, because every kid is different and every age is different. Being a parent is something you should do proudly and something you should do well. And this category is about your legacy and your love. It deserves a tremendous amount of thought and attention. Maybe someday in the future, your child will ask, "Mom, Dad, how'd you do such a good job? I mean, with so many lousy parents out there and so many messed up kids, how was it that you had a grip on something so incredibly difficult? How did you do it so well?" And you'll be able to say, "I'll tell you the secret. I thought about it." What a privilege it is to be involved in something so incredibly important. Have a great time with this chapter of your life book.